My name is John Passfield. The title of this reading will be John and Dickens, Video 18, Dickens Explains, Part 1. So here is my novella, John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery, just adjusting it so you can see the diagram. John finds himself in the writing room of Charles Dickens, and Dickens is surrounded by his characters. Writer John Passfield leaves his home, buys a coffee, and drives down to the shores of Lake Erie to perform a Christmas ritual, strolling along the beach at Port Maitland. It's something he's done for many years, but this year is different. This year, John suddenly finds himself in the writing room of famed Victorian novelist Charles Dickens, who sets out his new idea for a Christmas tale. Dickens invites John to watch rehearsals for the writing of the story, but as Dickens struggles through contentious negotiations with his amazingly independent characters, John wonders whether A Christmas Carol will ever be written. Now, John is baffled by the claims of Charles Dickens, the author, that he has created John as a character. Though the experience of finding himself in Dickens' writing room is believable, John feels that he's not a character, but is the actual person that he has always felt himself to be. Further, that Dickens is about to write a Christmas novella is quite believable, but Dickens's claim that he's planning to write a novel in which John will be a major character is very hard to believe. At a certain point in the novella, John challenges Dickens to explain what this is all about. In this video reading, we'll have a look at the first part of Dickens's explanation, or at least his response to John's challenge. So, first of all, let's look at the challenge. I'll go to page 74 here. Here it is. So John speaks to Dickens. After listening to Dickens and taking it all in and wondering about it, he decides to ask Dickens what's going on. So here's what John says. "I never hear your characters talk, Mr. Dickens. I see you talking to them and see them talking to you, but I never hear what either of you has to say. I hear you when we're alone. Presumably you hear me. This is very strange to me. It's very strange indeed. Is it strange to you?" Okay, Dickens then responds. We'll go to page 77, spilling over into page 78. "Why can you not hear the characters speaking? Well, that's a very good question, John. Now, I suppose there is some force, some character or person, some entity, shall we say, that has the power of control, and who also has a purpose, a plan, a logic about what you are able to hear and what you cannot. But you can hear every word I say when I'm talking to you directly. That is the case in this exchange, is it not? So, ask me anything that you would care to know." Okay, so that's the first part of Dickens's explanation. Let's go on to another segment of that explanation. Page 78 and over into 79. Dickens continues. "The Christmas characters can't hear you either, John, but they are very aware of you, John. All the same, they have become more and more aware of you as a presence of some sort as time has gone on. They haven't accepted you yet. They're what you might call a clannish group, not easily approached, quick to start. In fact, John, they are rather leery of you. They have been asking me why you are here and what you stand for. But you can dismiss these concerns from your mind. They haven't yet warmed up to you, John, seen you as one of their fellow characters, seen the story in which I shall place you, seen how close you are to my heart, seen you as one of the group that clusters around me in my chair, in my writing room, to bolster me, nourish me, protect me as I work. Okay? And then Dickens goes on. That was page 78, 79. We go over to page 81, 82, and Dickens continues with his explanation to John. They have come to wonder, John, whether perhaps you just might know too much about my life, my background, my youth, for my own good. That I might have told you my secrets, my early difficulties, setbacks, traumas, if you will. But that, you'll say, is ridiculous, as you know, and I know, too, that over the course of these visits, I have told you nothing of myself, nothing pertinent or significant at all. Okay, and then we go on to page 82, 83, with Dickens continuing his explanation to John. All human interaction is barter, John. What one has and what one needs. You might have matches. You might have firewood. You look for someone who has what you lack. With some people, you share an agenda. With others, your agendas are at odds. You make bargains in the marketplace, the marketplace of the heart. There's nothing cold-blooded in any of this at all. You take home from the market a turkey for a feast. You take home a bag of seeds that you hope will grow. You make the best bargain that you can make on a given day. If it rains, you'll be soaking wet when you arrive home. Well, that's the first part. It goes on, but I'm going to stop there with Dickens' explanation. And what I'm going to read now is not anything about that explanation or about the novella. I'm going to read a general note on the nature of literature. I want to tell you about an experience that I had when I was walking down the sidewalk one day in a little village near where I live, Cayuga, Ontario, Canada. A former student came up to me and said hello, and we had a nice chat. Then he said something very interesting, something which could have been devastating to me as a former teacher, but was actually quite interesting to think about. He said, "Hey, sir, you know that book we took in English class?" And then he named the book. I don't remember the name of the book as I'm telling you this story, but he was what we used to call, a general student, which meant that he was educating himself for the trades. He was not bound for university in an academic career. So it might have been L'Étranger by Albert Camus, in English translation, of course, or A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, or Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller, or In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, or Macbeth by Shakespeare, or any of the other many wonderful books that I enjoyed teaching to the general classes. And it strikes me that we often had more enjoyable discussions in the general classes than we had in the university-bound classes, because these students were very interested in their own lives and the lives of those around them, and interested in what their lives would be like when they got out into the working world, and not interested, as were the university-bound students, in what they should know in order to be successful at university, or in what kinds of things they should put on test papers in order to get good marks. But anyway, what he said to me was, "Hey, sir, remember that book we took in English class? I never even read one word of that whole book." Well, it wasn't devastating to me. In fact, I smiled and I said, "I know you didn't. But I also know that you came to every class, that you sat there in the back seat of the middle row, that you listened to every word when I read the book out loud, and when the students read the book out loud, often alternating their voices with my voice as we went up and down the rows, that you took part in reading as well, and that you listened to every word of the discussions. And I know that you didn't take part in many discussions, but you did once in a while have something very interesting to say. So even though I knew you weren't reading the book with your eyes, I knew that you were experiencing the book with your ears and with your mind. Now, that is more words for sure than I said to my former student as we were standing on the sidewalk, but it's basically what I said to him. I said, in effect, I know you weren't reading the book with your eyes, but I know you were listening to the book, and every word that was said about the book, and even saying a few words about the book yourself. So it's my feeling that all of our experience, whether it happens to us personally, or whether we take it in as an experience that happens to someone else, in this case to someone who happens to be a character in a book, goes into our minds and is processed. Some of it remains as information. I was told in first year university that all of the information that we take into our minds remains there for the rest of our lives. And some of it is turned into imagery. What our conscious or subconscious minds decide is significant information, is relevant to our own lives, the life of our society and the life of our planet, is turned into imagery. It is turned into imagery by being juxtaposed with other information. And when you have two items of information side by side, arranged side by side in your conscious or subconscious mind, you ask yourself what might possibly be the connection. So all the time he was sitting in class, this former student of mine, and not reading the book, but listening to the words, which goes back to the earliest of our ancestors sitting around a fire and telling and listening to stories, he was processing the imagery of that book. So I was not devastated at all. I did not see myself as a failure as his English teacher at all. He learned as much or as little as our earliest ancestors learned while sitting around the fire and processing the imagery of the stories that were being told. And that is really all an English teacher can help a student to do. So this is my novella, John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery. It's found on Amazon. There's information there. There's more information at my publisher's website, rocksmillspress.com, rocksmillspress.com, and at my website, johnpassfield.ca, johnpassfield.ca. There's more information in the form of 2 free books. You just click on the icons. The planning notebook that I wrote while planning and writing this novella, the journal of reflection that I wrote while polishing this novella. They're free if you click on the icon at my website, johnpassfield.ca. Thank you for watching this video.